What up, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Estate Unlocked podcast. I am your host, Joseph Marone, and today we're kicking things off with one of the most powerful strategies for finding and closing real estate deals. I'm talking about a life-changing approach that not only helps homeowners navigate tough situations, but at the same time open doors to amazing deal opportunities. One of the most proven methods to get in your first real estate deal while making a real difference in people's lives. Today, we're diving into one of my absolute favorite real estate strategies, pre-foreclosures. Pre-foreclosures are properties where homeowners have fallen behind on their mortgage payments, but the property hasn't been yet set for an auction. For real estate investors, this creates a unique window of opportunity to step in and help. By reaching out to these homeowners, you can negotiate solutions that benefit both sides, whether that's saving their home or buying it before it goes to foreclosure. As the real estate market becomes more competitive, pre-foreclosures offer a powerful way to find off-market deals, build on relationships, and create win-win situations for everyone involved. Now, it's not just about finding deals, it's about understanding the process, knowing how to properly help these homeowners, and taking action to grow your business to the very next level. Now, if pre-foreclosure sounds like the strategy you've been searching for, then stick around because we're going to be giving you all the tools and resources you need to start crushing it in this business today. Now, you know how we do it on the Real Estate Unlocked podcast. If we're going to do it, we got to do it right. We can't just bring on anyone to speak about pre-foreclosures. We got to bring on the queen of pre-foreclosures. Today, our special guest on the podcast is Miss Nita Patel. Nita has been working direct to sellers since 2017 and has done numerous deals that include primarily pre-foreclosures and probates. She's partnered with investors nationwide, runs a door-knocking team in Illinois, and co-hosts the Pre-Foreclosures Daily Dial in the Sub2 community every Wednesday with Caroline Kane. As a leader in Chicago and a member of Owners Club, Nita has built a reputation for finding the best deals and helping others do the same. When her and her husband started, they had no money, so she was forced to doing direct to seller as a necessity and worked tirelessly to grow her business. Along the way, she's done extensive mindset and wholesale training, as well as meditation and healing work through Master Body and Brain Centers. This has helped her in her success and heal from her past traumas. She has been a victor, not a victim, of domestic violence, and her purpose is to build homes for women that go through domestic violence. Nita joins us today to share her expertise in pre-foreclosures, how to get started, build trust with homeowners, and use this strategy to create win-win opportunities. This episode will be packed with value that you just don't want to miss. So without further ado, I've been talking long enough. Everyone, if you will, please allow me to formally introduce to you Nita Patel. Nita, what's going on? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Joseph? Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm doing good. It's been a little busy morning, but busy is good, right? How's everything going for your morning?
Yeah, busy is always good. I was also busy this morning trying to stop an auction, like what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it can be a little tricky sometimes, right? So how did that go this morning?
I wasn't able to. I wouldn't say I wasn't able to. The homeowners, they changed their mind. They somewhere didn't trust the process, and that happens a lot of times with pre foreclosures. So I tried to, bid on it at a live auction, but it was overbid.
Yeah, those biddings can get a little crazy, and I don't know how these people make money on those bids, right? They bid them up way too high, and there's no room to even make any profits on the property. That's why I'm always, stressing get the property before it goes to that process, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this was probably like my second time at a live auction, and like I've never bought any properties from the auction, but since I was already there, and like the auction was taking place in the same city, which was like about 5 minutes from the house. So I was like, you know what, let me just go out there and take a look, and like see what happens. So I did prepare myself. I did take a check. You're supposed to take like 25% of whatever, your max bid is. So I did take a check just in case if I'm able to get it, but there were so many people there like bidding on the same property. And this was just a reminder for me, like not to, go to the live auctions ever again.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why we're here to talk about pre-foreclosures. So, Nita, welcome to the Real Estate Unlocked podcast, a place where we bring value to new and intermediate investors by bringing on experts such as yourself and covering real estate topics on a very basic level. Now, pre-foreclosures are a huge part of my business and one of the key strategies that we use to find deals and help homeowners. It's been a powerful way for us to make an impact instead of just being transactional in this business. So I'm really excited to just dive right into this topic here today and just break down to the listeners, especially for those who might be wondering how they even get started, right? So thank you again, Nita, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come hang out with us today.
Thank you. I'm excited. Let's go. Love talking
Let's
about
go.
pre-foreclosures.
We're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into it. So, Nita, for someone who maybe never heard of this strategy, can you break down what pre-foreclosures are and why they're such a powerful niche in real estate investing?
Yeah, so like pre-foreclosure process can be different in, every state. The state that I'm in, which is Illinois, the pre-foreclosure process is anywhere from 2 to 5 years, but then there are some states like Arizona where, like the entire process can be done in 6 months. It's a good, like niche to go after. When I had first started, like we had no money and I was just scared to buy from the auctions or from the MLS because we didn't have any money that we can afford to have stuck in a deal if we were doing the BRRRR method,
Right.
or take money to closing. So like I was forced to find the best of the best deals, and I came across pre-foreclosures, and I just like dug into it, and like if someone doesn't have any money, it's a great strategy to start with.
Absolutely. What's great about real estate in general is there's so many different paths you can take, right? How did pre-foreclosures necessarily become your path? Because I'm sure you've tried like other methods and whatnot. Like, what was it about pre-foreclosures that just you felt like was your calling?
Like I said, when we started with the mentor here in Chicago. His name is Andrew Holmes, but he mainly teaches about the BRRRR method and how to buy from the MLS and from the sheriff sales. And I tried that. I tried bidding on maybe 2 or 3 properties, through them. But every time I tried, they were just being overbid. And we barely had $5,000. Like we didn't have that much money. And I remember like the first property that we bought, was from the MLS, and we had about $3,000 stuck in it. It wasn't that much. I think it just took us like 2.5 months to find a tenant because it was in the middle of winter.
Hmm.
And out of that five, thousand that we had to use 3,000, to pay the mortgage, like until you find a tenant. And after that, I just got scared, like and then I also just like didn't want to get myself in trouble. At that time, my husband was working, so he wasn't part of the business. He was working a W-2. So it was
Right.
just me, like doing the business. So I think that's what led me to, like just going after off market. I had heard someone talk about pre-foreclosures, and they talked about like upcoming auctions. They didn't really go too much in detail about it, but I like came home that night and, I just like started doing a lot of research on it. And, I started listening to Brand Daniels. I signed up for other mentorships, like REI Blueprint. I don't know if you have heard of them, but they, like teach you how to market
Hmm.
for off market properties. And then there was another mentor here who had like a wholesaling class that I took, which all this stuff wasn't that much, of course we couldn't spend that much money, but like
Hmm.
whatever I learned, from Brand Daniel's free videos and whatever research I did on my own, I just was like, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm not gonna give up, and at that time I had left my job and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna go back, to working a W-2, because I hated it. I hated, just sitting in a cubicle and working. So I was like, no matter what, I'm going to figure this out. So like my first off market deal, it took 8 months,
Wow.
to find it. But after that, like I kept adding more and more in the pipeline. So the 8 months that it took, obviously it was, worth it. I was building other skills. I wasn't, like gaining the monetary value, but building like sales skills, building the momentum and relationships and, so many other things, right? Like that's what people need to understand, when it takes time, to like find your first deal.
Yeah, I love that you pointed that out because a lot of people they want like instant results, right? And they don't understand the legwork that you really got to put into really finding these deals. And I started out, doing low equity, expired listings, just calling, cold calling sellers, and it was great. Don't get me wrong, and we were closing deals, but it was just transactional, right? And
Yeah.
when I got a part of the community, I just, meeting people like Pace and all these go-givers, everybody was just like, they had a greater purpose. And I was like, I need to have a better purpose than just transactional, right? And then when I came across pre-foreclosures and finding out all these people like yourself and Caroline Kane and Michael Frankie, everybody just helping these homeowners, and I was like, I think that's my calling right there. And I was like, let me just give it a shot. And right away, I just found myself on the calls. I found myself, having great conversations with sellers, and it's tough. These conversations sometimes they're very tough, right? And they're crying their eyes out, and you're just able to help them, or sometimes you can't help them, right? So, but I'm glad you shared that. I know there's people listening to this right now, and they want to know how, right? So, Nita, what would you say the first step someone should take if they want to start working on pre foreclosures?
Yeah, so look, like we tell people on the daily dial, right, that it may not be for everyone. It depends on like how much time, like an individual has, right? Identify how much time you have first. If you have enough time, I would say like 30, at least 30 to 40 hours to put into this, then, like go for direct to seller. Otherwise, you need to find a wholesaler that can bring you the properties. You do this, you do need to put in time. But for someone that's starting out, I would highly recommend, they partner with someone that's experienced. It's not that easy, when you're trying to do it on your own. Unless if like, you're the kind of person who's, gonna go out there and take massive action. Like when I started, I didn't partner with anyone, but like I just went out there and started talking to sellers. I messed up, but I also learned along the way. But
Hmm.
not everyone can do that. Not everyone can just get up and start cold calling and door knocking. Not everyone can do it. So if you have those, fears, then partner with someone who's experienced, who's done a few deals, and like go door knocking with them or shadow them, when they're door knocking and cold calling. So I would definitely recommend, like people that are starting out to, partner with someone that's experienced, not someone that's new, because both of you are gonna drown if you're partnering with someone new,
Right.
right? And then, like, of course, you want to make sure that you're not using too many softwares when you first start out, because you're just going to be busy, trying to figure out softwares than doing deals. You
Right.
don't need that many softwares when you first start out, like all you need are county websites if you're doing pre-foreclosures, or maybe just like PropStream if you want a software, and like a skip tracing software. And if someone absolutely has no money, Joseph, they can still do good in this. They just can
Agreed.
get the leads from the county websites. Start with one county and just Google the people's names, and you'll find phone numbers. And then there's also free skip tracing softwares like True People Search, and
Hmm.
start calling them. And then you can also stack the leads. This is what we teach on the daily dial, to stack the leads by the with like the multiple pain points,
Multiple pain
right?
points. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, the higher, the multiple pain points there are, the higher, the motivation, there is going to be, right? Like I like to go after the ones that are, pre-foreclosures, probate, and vacant.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point, right? Because those homeowners that are going through pre-foreclosure and the property is vacant, necessarily they don't really have that sentimental value to the property like most people do, right? Because most homeowners I'm reaching out to, they want to keep their home, right? They don't want to sell the property because they have some, they just really have this sentimental value to their home. They're like, no, I want to keep my home. But if you're reaching out to a homeowner that is vacant, right? More than likely it was inherited, right? Passed down somehow. But yeah, you made another good point about, JVing and partnering with people. I always tell people that when you're first starting out, partner with somebody because you need to understand like how the deal works, like how it actually closes from A to Z before you start trying to close deals on yourself, right? Don't worry about making so much money in the beginning. Just partner with someone, bring them a deal and figure out you guys can work together. Then you can start venturing out on your own, right? So good point on that. Now, Nita, you and I both know mindset plays such a huge role in this business, right? Especially when it comes to something as intimidating as knocking on distressed homeowners' doors or putting phone calls in and having those uncomfortable conversations. How do you overcome the fear of rejection? And what would you say to someone who's maybe struggling to take that first step?
Yes, look, when you first start out, like you are going to have a lot of fears and a lot of doubts. I did, when I started, I was just so stuck in my own mind, and I created all these stories in my mind,
Hmm.
without having done the work. So
Right,
I just
right.
created all these horror stories, right? So of course you want to think positive, surround yourself with people, that are already, doing the deals. You have to work on your mindset. If you don't work on your mindset, I mean, think about it, like, especially when you're doing pre-foreclosures, these people are not in the right state of mind. So if you're not grounded, if you're not in the right state of mind, how are you going to help, the people that are in pre-foreclosures? So like
Exactly.
a lot of the work that I've done, I give a lot of the credit to that, because I understand myself so much. Since I understand myself and human behavior so much, I'm able to understand them, and I'm able to, be patient with them. So like you're talking about rejection, right? Like a lot of
Hmm.
people are, going to say no to you, or, they're going to tell you that, they're working on something when they're not, like I know when they're living in the house, a lot of people do want to keep the house, but are they able to keep the house? They're not most of the times. Like
Hmm.
they will say that they want to because they're still in denial. They still
Right.
have not accepted the fact that they're about to lose the house, and they wait until the last minute. You also do pre-foreclosures, they wait until the last minute,
Very last
right?
second, even minutes
Right.
before the auction.
Few minutes before the auction
Mhm.
or a day before the auction, right? So you have to, build rapport, keep asking the right questions, when they're telling you that they're working on something, right? If they say they're working on a loan modification, then you need to ask, like, hey, what exactly are you working on? Have you submitted all the documents to the lender? Because if you haven't, they're going to put your file all the way on the bottom, and it's not going to be looked at. Have you talked to the lender? When is the last time you talked to the lender, right? You have to, build rapport with them and ask all these questions. A lot of times what, like people do is they just give up. If a homeowner
Right.
says they're working on something, they automatically just assume that they got it taken care of. No, they don't.
Mhm.
They're just saying that to you because they don't want to talk to you or anyone.
Right.
So you have to talk to them, build rapport, and try to like bring their guards down, bring their walls down. You almost have to become, a friend with them.
Yeah.
You have to keep providing value until, the end. You have to be the last person standing. When others have already walked away, they have moved on to other leads. You're going to be the one, who's there in the end.
Yeah, because
Keep
you're right.
providing value.
You're right, because they a lot of times these homeowners are procrastinators, right? And sometimes that's probably why they're in the situation they're in, right? So you have to be the person that helps push them and shows them like, hey, we're not giving up on you, right? We're gonna figure this thing out. And by you continually following up with them every single day or every other day, it shows them like, all right, man, Nita, she just really cares, right? She must really care. And another thing on rejection too, right? It's been hard. I know you've probably experienced this. I went to doors when not knocking and they slam the door in your face or they say, get the hell off my doorstep, and it kind of does bring down your momentum a little bit, but you just gotta, silence that out and just keep pushing forward because maybe that person's just not ready for help right now. And maybe they will later on down the road. And on top of that, you might go reach another door right after that, and you'll reach somebody that actually wants your help, right? And then so you
Right.
just got to remember that when you're going and hitting these doors. So good point on
Right.
that.
Right. And if they do, slam the door on you or say something to you, just remember that, it's not against you. It's whatever they have going on in their lives. I mean, think about it. If they're late on their mortgage, they're probably late on a lot of things, and you don't know
Mhm.
what's going on, like in the families. There's so many different things, that go on, so just know that it's not you, and then of course go back. Even if they slam the door on you, go back. Maybe they were just having a bad day, or they didn't want to talk to you that day. I've had like so many homeowners and families tell me like, hey, sorry, we reacted that way, but you actually have helped us, and they appreciate it. They're grateful, so don't give up. Obviously, I mean, try a few times. You don't want to be too desperate, or like continue to keep trying. If you're getting the feeling that, hey, they're, yeah, I'm not going to be able to break them, I'm not going to be
Right.
able to help them,
Yeah,
because we can't help everyone. We have to remember that as well, right? Like the family this morning, they just somewhere didn't believe that I could stop the auction a few minutes before.
that's crazy. Yeah.
It is crazy. So it just ended up going to auction.
Yeah, and you raise a good point, right? Don't take it personal, right? It's just whatever, they're going through a situation, you just have to remember that. Which reminds me, like when you come across doors and you're knocking them and you see those not, don't solicit or no soliciting signs, do you still hit those? Or like the no trespassing signs, do you still hit those?
We still do, yeah.
Love it.
I mean, if someone says something, you can just, I have trained my door knockers just to say, hey, we're so sorry. We didn't see the sign, but if you don't like us coming here, we won't come back. We won't bother you, but we just wanted to, talk to you about your house, So if someone doesn't like it, you don't have to go back. But most of the time, they don't say anything.
All right, good to know. Now, I know you brought up the county earlier. Is that the only source that you find your leads, or are there any specific tools or software or resources that you recommend for someone to find other leads outside of the county, or is it only county data you're going after?
No, we just get our data from the county websites because it's the most accurate. And here in Illinois, there's so many different counties, so we have enough. I don't need to, like go after like, probates, or, unless if like we're stacking the leads and it's also a pre-foreclosure and probates, or, use another software, it's been sufficient for us.
Got it. Now, do you go directly to the county, or are you pulling it from their website?
We're pulling them from the website, but every county, every state is going to be different. Some counties don't have their properties listed, so you will have to go to the courthouse.
Okay, great. Now, how do you pre-scrub your lead data to make sure you're not wasting your time on unqualified properties?
So we do it differently. When we first started doing this, I just I was just so curious, like to like just understand like, okay, what's going on, with these homes.
What's the
And that's
bigger
when I
picture?
like, yeah, what's the bigger picture? So that's where I like started digging, and like skip tracing the homeowners and the families, and then I would Google their names,
Went
like
down
I
that
didn't know
rabbit
I
hole.
was, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm like, okay, let me like see what's going on, That's when I was like, you know what? I should be doing this with all of them, because most of the people are not. Most of the people are skip tracing the leads in bulk, and then
Mhm.
they're putting them in a dialer, right? And they're calling, through the dialer. But if
Right.
the homeowners have passed away, who are you calling? You're calling
Nobody.
on people that have passed,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't think anyone really taught me, how to call the relatives and how to find the relatives information. It was just me, like that. It was just a lot of trial and error, Then I just started calling the relatives, and if you're not able to, get hold of them on the phone, then go door knock on them if they're nearby. No one does that. Who's doing that? If you do that, you're gonna be like probably the only one doing that. Think about it. Not many people are doing this.
Yep. Now, it's great that you bring that up, right? Because I remember having this conversation with you, and you're like, "Are you pre-scrubbing your data?" And I'll tell you what, in the beginning, we weren't. We were just pulling everything and anything from the county and just shotgunning everything, right? Just calling everybody. And what happened was that we were actually getting people that wanted to move forward with deals. But guess what? They were in the middle of nowhere, or they had no
Yeah.
equity, right? And so
Right.
that was the problem we faced. And I was like, well, even if I lock this deal up, who's going to buy it? You know, if I'm trying to wholesale it, right? And I don't want to be owning this property in the middle of nowhere. Am I even going to be able to find tenants? So I remember asking you this question, and you're like, are you, you know, when you said, are you pre-scrubbing your data? I'm like, well, that seems like a lot of work, Nita. And you're like, absolutely, it's a lot of work. But guess what? That mindset right there is why I'm getting these deals, because I'm putting in the work, right? I'm doing what other people aren't. And that's what separates you, because, you know, if you're using these softwares like PropStream and everything, that data is late, right? You already missed the
Yeah,
curve. You missed the wave when
right.
someone like Nita is going directly to the county and they get posted the day of, right? So good stuff on that. You know, that's very important. So I like to point that out. But
No, I was saying, and you're also working off of like a narrow down list, right? Like, let's say if you have like 50, on your narrow down list, you can get at least 5 to 7 under contract from that.
mhm,
And you're saving money too. I understand, you're spending a lot of time and energy, but you know exactly, what to go after.
right. And so when you're pulling that list, right, and you're going through them manually one by one, what are the things you're looking for? Because I'm sure you're looking for equity, and you're looking for, you know, what market it's in. What else are you looking at when you're scrubbing that data?
So I'm looking for high equity, anything over 40%, unless if like, if it's got a good interest rate, then
Mhm,
and if it was bought in the last 5 years, then
mhm,
I'm okay, if it has about 30% equity, because I know, okay, I'm gonna take it over subject to, and I might not have to do that much work because it was just, bought, less than 5 years ago. So it just depends. And then I try to buy most of the properties in like A and B areas.
mhm.
Sometimes it's in C areas, but I'm not doing that much wholesaling. So these are the properties that we want to flip or hold,
Right. Okay.
right? Because I like, when you're wholesaling, yes, you'll make some money. It's great, but like you're making obviously, more money, when you're flipping and stuff. Right? I mean, it depends. I mean, if it's got a lot of equity and you wholesale it, yeah, you can make good money as well. So then, yeah, like mainly A and B areas, high equity, like I said, and then I'm stacking them. Like I first want to go after the ones that are vacant, because these families have walked away. It's easier when they're vacant. If
Mhm.
they are already living in the property, then you have to wait until they find something, or you have to wait until they have accepted their situation, which we know a lot of them are in denial, right? So I like to go after the ones that are vacant. But do we buy all of them that are vacant? No. I mean, there's a lot that we'll buy which are just pre-foreclosures, with high equity.
Do you stack it with anything out other than, vacancies? Do you do, like, any water shutoffs or any type of things that you stack it on top of that, or no?
No, so just probate, vacant, and then everything else is gonna be there most of the times, right? Like, but we don't stack it with that, like tax delinquency. Most of the times, they're going to be late on the taxes, and then on water shut off. Most of the times, that's also gonna be there with these properties. But yeah, just mainly pre foreclosures, probate, vacant.
Got it. Now, when you're talking to these homeowners, are you discussing their options to help them stop the auction, or do you go straight into talking about potentially buying their home? How do you approach that conversation?
No, my approach is different. When I started doing this, I was clear that, I was going to be different. I'm not just going to be like most of the investors out there, who are approaching them as like buyers, in
Right.
the area. Right. So like when I approach them, whether it's door knocking or cold calling, I'm asking if anyone has talked to them about the different options that they have,
Mhm.
for their house. This way, they don't shut down on you.
Right.
No, you're there to provide value. You're not there to, just buy another house.
Mhm.
So they're more open to talking to you.
Yeah, I agree, because you got 100 people, they're getting all types of phone calls, people knocking on their door, getting letters, and everybody just wants to buy their house, right? So when I first started learning about, pitching options and trying to help them out, it really does separate you from everybody else, because now you don't fall into this general category of everybody's just trying to buy my house. Now it's like, well, this person's actually trying to help me keep my home, right? So
Right.
and now you could have a different type of conversation, right? So, yeah,
Right.
that's great that you do that. Now, Nita, you've built up a strong reputation in our community for your success with door knocking pre-foreclosure properties, but I'm sure that level of confidence and skill didn't come overnight, right? So, was there a moment or something specific you realized about yourself that you needed to change or improve to get where you are today?
I mean, look, it's been in the works for 8 years, right? Like when I started real estate, that's when I also started doing the mindset work, and I'm always growing, elevating, like whether it's my mindset or in real estate. So there's like different things that I have worked on. Like I've worked on like personal things with my mentor, like healing my traumas, and then along with that she also helped me with my patterns, and like a lot of the fears that I have, and just like being aware of the surroundings, and being more conscious, and not just of your time, but like even like your thoughts and the people that you hang out with. So
Yeah,
it
I don't know if you've done this in the past, but I know I'm guilty of it. So when I first started out, I was like, I didn't really understand like the whole lingo of how to start talking to homeowners. So I would rely on the script heavily, right? And so when I would talk to the homeowners, I'm literally reading from a script through the phone. And I don't care how good you are, you can read, they can sense that, right? You just sound robotic. You don't sound like no empathy in your voice. And once I was like, man, why are these people just not having conversations with me? Once I ditched the script and just started, relying on on my actual conversations, that's when things started changing, right? That's when I was actually having better conversations and people were actually opening up more with me. So I don't know if that was ever the case with you. So, that's what I was kind of pointing at. Like, was there something back then that you realized that you needed to change to get to where you are right now with your success?
No, so like just like you, I never used a script. For me, it was just, being different than most of the people and having genuine conversations,
Mm,
like and being there, providing value, being a friend, like a lot of times the house is probably the last thing that I'm talking about, like
mhm.
unless if they're bringing it up at first. Like my thing is to build rapport and then we'll talk about the house. I'm not like a lot of people that go in the house and start taking pictures, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to start taking pictures. As it is, they're already embarrassed and ashamed of their situation. You
Right,
don't want to make them feel more ashamed. So
right.
yeah, I mean, along the way, of course, there's so many things that I had to work on, right? My sales skills. I also took like training with Tino. He's in Arizona. Who it was called Closers Only, and like he taught me a lot of different things as well, So it was every time when I was stuck, on something, I would either do a training or look up videos, Brand Daniels videos, like on how to overcome objections and all of that. So like it obviously takes time, but you have to be talking to people. That's how you're going to learn. You're
Yeah.
not going to learn by making just a few phone calls or doing a few door knocks. You have to do it on a consistent basis. Of course you can hire people after some time, but not in the beginning. In the beginning you need to do it on your own, everything.
What helped me out a lot was these daily dials we talked about earlier, how you and Caroline and Michael Frankie, you guys are hosting all these daily dials and just throwing yourself in there and doing some role playing, right? With actual students that are actually going through the same thing. It just kind of puts you on the spot, but it helps you and it helps you navigate those conversations. And then everybody's listening in and they can point out, what you need to fix or what you need to address. And that really helps out a lot too. So
Yeah, it
now,
does. The role plays, or like if like I said, I didn't, I wasn't in a community where, I had the opportunity, to do the role plays and all that. I was just out there talking to people. I just learned, and then I would
yeah,
like come home and, write the different objections and how I
hmm,
overcame them. And, like I just kept improving, as
yeah.
I had more experience. So like if someone wants to do that, they can do that as well. They don't have to role play on the daily dial. If you're the kind of person, wants to just go out there and start talking, you also learn from that as well.
Yeah, another thing I do, Nita, is I have like a little wireless microphone when I'm door knocking, and I'll actually have it recorded. I'll record the whole conversation with the homeowner, or I'll use my CRM and I'm calling out these homeowners and the call is recorded. And then I'll actually go back to my recordings and I'll listen to it and I'll say, man, like I missed that part that she said, or,
Yeah.
why did I say this? Or why did I say
Yeah.
that? And then it helps you grow, helps you figure out what you need to address in the way you conversate. Right. So I
Yeah.
don't know if
Yeah.
you do that at all as well.
I did do that before. I did record myself before, and yeah, I would listen to it. But of course, like just doing the work. That's
Hmm.
what's going to, help you. Just being
Take
out there
take
and taking
action.
action. Yeah.
Yep. Now, when a homeowner is feeling defensive, overwhelmed, or maybe in denial about their foreclosure, how do you approach the conversation in a way that builds trust and helps them bring that wall down a little bit?
So, I mean, you kind of have to read them out, and this also comes with experience. Like if they're overwhelmed, then the last thing that you want to talk about is the house.
Right.
Because, it's
It's already
going to
stressful, right?
it's already stressful. It's going to, put them, it's going to make them more overwhelmed and frustrated, right? That's when, like, I would talk about other things, or, like if I have the time, like I'll be like, hey, let's go out for coffee. I'll take you out, or we'll meet here. You just, like I said, you just gotta kind of feel them out, especially like if they're not in the right mood, that day, or in the right state of mind. You don't want to talk about the house. Wait,
Mhm.
and wait for another day or another time. So
Yeah,
it
I
just
agree.
it depends, it also depends on like the things that you say, right? Like a lot of people, tend to be so direct. You cannot be direct with these people. You have to understand, like, if there's something that you say, they might shut you down forever,
Mhm.
because they are going to take it personally, you know? So you got to be careful with what you say. You don't want to walk into that house and say something negative about their house, or say negative, about their situation. You have to be really careful with what you say.
Yeah, especially when you're walking in the home or you're getting ready to sit on the couch and then you start observing the house. Don't do that, because they feel like
Right.
you're value judging them, right? So I
Right.
never do that. When I get in the living room, I'm keeping my eyes on them, face to face conversation, right?
Yeah, that's it. Don't like go in the house and start taking pictures and start asking about the house. Talk about other things until you have, like a comfortable rapport built with them. And then
Yeah.
you can start, adding in, asking about the house.
What are some of the most common objections homeowners have, and how do you handle them?
The common objections are, hey, we're working on something, we're working on a loan modification, or we're working with an attorney, or like they may say, is this for real? Like, can we really sell our house?
Mhm.
So I would say those are the common, objections, right? And that's where, I was saying before, like if they say they, have applied for a loan modification, then you want to ask more questions. And if they say they're already working with an attorney, then, you can be like, hey, great. So what are you working on with the attorney? What is he helping you with?
Mhm.
And like if they're not working with an attorney and they're lying to you, you'll be able to tell, right? And then of course you don't want to be direct, don't
Right.
be,
You're
yeah, I know you're
lying.
not
You're
working, you're
lying.
lying, right? So yeah, just asking questions. And then, if they say, hey, like is this for real? Like I don't believe this. Then, you can show them some of the deals that you've done. Like, look, I've been doing this for the last 8 years. I can show you some of the deals that I've done. I can have you talk to my attorney or my title company, and my attorney and the escrow officer at the title company that I work at, they're willing to talk to these homeowners. I've had to do that, not that many times, but I've had to do that maybe 3 or 4 times. So if
Yeah.
they don't trust you, it's, again, it's not you that they don't trust. They don't trust themselves, right?
Yeah, they don't trust anybody.
They don't
Nobody,
trust,
not the bank,
right? They
nobody.
don't trust anybody. So that's when, you can show them some of the deals that you've done. You can have, your attorney or the escrow officer talk to them.
Yeah, a common one I always get is, "We already have it taken care of, thank you." What do you say to that?
I'll be like, okay, great. So what are you working on?
Mm. Get them to
And
open up and talk a little
get them
more.
to open up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, what's the difference between a judicial and a non-judicial foreclosure states, and why is that important to know?
It's important to know because, the length of the time that it takes, is going to be different, right? Like we're a non-judicial state here in
Mhm.
Illinois. So the process, is anywhere from 2 to 5 years. I don't know
Yep.
the state that you're in, but
Yeah, it's
Arizona.
it's actually a mixed state, but it's primarily non-judicial though. So there are some states that do both.
Yeah, there are some states that do both. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, you do need to know that, because like here the properties here in Illinois, like if you're going after the ones, that are in auction, they're late at least 2 to 3 years, most of them. Of course, some maybe 5%, you'll come across where, they just went into pre-foreclosure like 7 or 8, 9 months ago, but most of them are like over 2 years. So you have to remember those reinstatement amounts are going to be high, and they're
Mhm.
going to need extensive work, a lot of them.
Right.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. You will find some, that were bought like in the last 5 or 7 years where, they may not need that much work. And those are, of course, the ones that you want to go after.
Now, what about if it is a judicial state? How does that work? Do you know?
So I'm not in a judicial state, so I don't really know, but I know the process is what, anywhere from 30 to 90 days. I think it's quick.
Yeah.
Like
So I
they're
get it really depends on, the length of the time, really. That's what it boils down to,
right.
right? So, okay. Good to know. Now, homeowners often turn to bankruptcy as a strategy during foreclosures, right? You know that.
Mhm.
Now, can you share your perspective on how it impacts the foreclosure timeline and when it might be an effective option for the homeowner to do?
Okay, so bankruptcies, of course, you don't want to talk to homeowners, about, like have an attorney that will explain to these
Hmm.
homeowners and the families, the bankruptcies. You don't want to go too much in detail about it because you can get in trouble. But
Right.
I hate having them file for bankruptcies because it just prolongs everything.
Everything.
I don't know what you have seen, but here it can take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks for that bankruptcy to be dismissed.
Hmm.
You cannot close on the house until the bankruptcy is dismissed.
Right.
And then, that obviously gives them time to figure other things out. And then
Yeah.
sometimes they're also ghosting you, so much can happen in between. So, like, that's the last option. Like
Yeah.
if you are able to get it postponed, somehow try to get it postponed. I don't like the bankruptcies. Like, have I had homeowners that have filed for bankruptcies? Yes, I have, like, I think 3 or 4 right now, but it's prolonged everything, you
Yeah.
know? And we all know time kills deals. The longer it's gonna take, they're gonna be talking to other people who are gonna change their minds, or they're just like back in their old state of mind again, and so many things can happen.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the people that are in foreclosure in California, they're professionals at it, right? They know how to prolong the system like so long. They use strategies that even I get, taught on. I'm like, this is crazy. How can you prolong the process this long? But, sometimes homeowners will ask me and they'll, say, well, I'll just, if I just file bankruptcy, it all just goes away, right? I'm like, no, 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 no. It's just a temporary hold. It's a temporary stop on the auction. It doesn't make it go away. It just temporarily stops it. And I never recommend it, like you said, unless you have attorneys involved. And the only time I will actually say I recommend it is when we're like the day of or the day before the auction and they want to actually sell the property, right? And then you might need that extra time to get it stopped so you can actually get the escrow open and actually close on the deal, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like even the day before, you can try to get it postponed, if you can. Like, I don't know, like if you have an attorney that can, file a motion for you to
I
front of
don't,
the judge. You
but I
don't?
need to get one though.
Yeah, you should, and then if you're giving the attorney enough business, they'll do it for less. Like my attorney will do it for me for like $1,000. So I'd rather go that route, pay the attorney, to go in front of the judge to get more time than have the families file for bankruptcy. It
Right.
just it just prolongs everything, and I just don't like it. Foreclosure attorney on time. It was
Mhm.
before the auction time, but they had already, stepped away from their office and started the auctions. So we couldn't get that bankruptcy number on time. So it did end up, selling. So
Mm.
now what we have to do is we have to vacate the sale.
Got it,
Then
got
you're
it.
spending more money, and then, it's going to take a little more time, and,
Yeah, they can definitely be tricky. So I always tell 'em I don't recommend it, right? Unless it's like a last minute ditch effort, and you're really just kicking the can down the road, right? By
Right.
prolonging even longer. Like you said, you start accumulating more fees and all that. So it's just not a good option. It's always the last option. But Nita, I've heard you talk about your story before, and what's great about your story is that you didn't start off with any of the fancy paid softwares, right? You didn't have a CRM. You used sticky notes for follow-ups and kept things simple. That's such a great way to start, right? Because you have little to no overhead, and you can still get deals done like you mentioned earlier without burning a hole in your pocket. But I think you would agree, as you start to scale, those tools can actually complement your business, right? So what CRMs or automation tools do you use today, and how have they helped you streamline your workflow?
So we still don't use that many softwares.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we use a free Podio. The door knockers still use notebooks because they also like that. And then we use People Looker for the skip tracing software. That's
Mm,
it. I mean, what else? Yeah, that's it. And then I
keeping it
have
simple.
VAs, right? That's it.
That's awesome.
We don't
People
need
people
software.
break their heads, right? They're like, I gotta have the best software. I gotta have the best CRMs. Nita keeps it simple, and she's crushing it out here, getting killer deals.
You have to keep it simple, especially like, look, I'm at a level where I can add in more softwares, but we don't need to. Why complicate it?
Yeah,
Like, think about it. If you have like too many softwares, like it's kind of like a distraction, like why not just, do it with like minimal, things. If it's working for you, why do you need to change it? Especially the way we do it, right? Like we're manually skip tracing every lead. So we don't need any other softwares. Like we don't need a dialer because our cold callers just use their phones
right.
because we're
Yeah,
not putting a whole bunch of leads in the dialer.
you're right, because when I was first starting out with pre-foreclosures, we had just jumped into a new CRM, and it had a bunch of glitches and bugs in the software, and we spent a good like 3 months trying to dial it in, when we could have used those 3 months just putting our best foot forward on trying to help homeowners, right? So now you've created another problem. Trying to solve one problem, you created another one, right?
Right.
So I love that you said that. Just keep it simple. Podio, sticky notes, and just keep it
Yeah.
very simple, right?
Keep everything simple. Even when you're giving the options to the homeowners, you don't need to give them 10 different options. I only give them three options. Like, okay, you can do a loan modification, you can reinstate the loan, or you can borrow the money from someone, and if
Mhm.
you're able to find the money, then I can help you, order a reinstatement payoff.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. That's
Yeah.
it. I'm not giving other options like, hey, we can try to get a loan for you, or, those three options are enough. You
Yeah.
don't need to complicate it. Like, think about it. These people don't have the capacity to understand a lot of things.
I agree.
So keeping it simple always works.
Yeah. Now, I know for most of the part, you pretty much keep the properties or you flip them, right? Now, what's the average assignment fee you're seeing wholesalers make on pre-foreclosure deals?
It just depends, if they're, finding the ones with high equity, you can make anywhere from like 20 to $30,000, for
Mm,
every property that you wholesale. It depends, and you
yeah.
don't need that many buyers. You only need a few buyers. We don't wholesale that many, but I have like, I have about, I would say 3 to 5 buyers here, and most of them are like our private lenders. Even our private lenders, we have like about five, and we've been using the same ones the last 8 years.
Yep. And they're just taking all the deals, right? Because you're inside their market.
Yeah. Now I'm glad, to sell it to them because we just help each other out, we
Yeah.
bring each other value.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? Because, average assignment fee for, expired listings, low equity type of deals, those are pretty much like, 7, 10,000. When on a pre-foreclosure, you can make 25, 30, even $50,000 on an assignment fee. So that's big difference in the payouts. But what mistakes do you see new investors make in this space, and how can they avoid them?
I don't know, like if I can say, if they make the mistakes in just pre-foreclosures, but I feel like a lot of people that start out, they jump from one thing to another.
Mm,
They want to do, direct to seller 1 month, and then another month they want to do, direct to agent, like, or they want to do something else. Like, stick to one thing. I would say for at least a year. You
Mhm.
know, I know some people will say 6 months, but if you don't try it out for a few months, how are you going to know if you're good at it or not?
Yeah, because a lot of times I'm talking to like newer students in the mentorship, and a lot of them are like, "Well, I'm doing direct to agent, and then I'm doing pre-foreclosures, and then I'm doing expired listings, and I do a little bit of dispo." And I'm just like, "Whoa, you were like
Yeah.
all over the place. Like, how do you
Yeah.
even master that, right? Because that's just too many things to try to learn all in one place. Like you said, like stick to it for at least a year, and just try to put as much time and effort in mastering that whatever you're doing, and you'll get great out of it. You're gonna get results if you put in the work, right? So
Right. And it's two different things. It's two different ball games. The way you talk to agents and the way you talk to sellers is different, you know? Like and then pre-foreclosure is a mistake that people make. I would say a lot of people, you know, like they wanna do the direct to seller strategy, but they don't have the time. Most of them are working, right? Like the people that work, it's challenging for them because after
yeah,
work they're tired, and then on the weekends they, want to spend some time with family and friends, and unless if like, you're laser focused and you're working off a narrow down list and you're grounded, you can do it, but it's
mhm,
not for everyone. Like it just sounds so good that everyone wants to do it, but it's not for everyone,
it's
right? So
tough.
first
Yeah,
identify that, like, do you have the time and the energy to put into this? If not, then find wholesalers.
yeah, I agree with you. Now, have you ever pursued like surplus funds if the property actually goes to auction?
Yes, I have.
Is that a good strategy?
Mm, I would not recommend it for people that are new, because then that's just another distraction,
Mhm,
like you can be trying to figure that out and then you're, distracted from what you were doing.
got it.
So
Yeah,
when
that
you've
makes
done a
sense.
few deals, then you can add the surpluses, right? Like, let's say if I'm already working with the family, right? Like, for example, today, it ended up going to auction and I was already working with the family. So, and
Mhm,
there's $100,000, surplus. So now, I can help the family. I can be like, hey, I can help you get that surplus and I'll charge you whatever, 10, 15%. So if I'm
got it.
already working with the families and the houses end up going to auction, then I'll do the surpluses. But other than that, I don't go after it,
Makes sense. Yeah,
because then you're just doing that,
yeah,
and that can also take some time.
yeah, I believe you. Now, what about like how are you handling like the situations where homeowners are like skeptical or unresponsive to you? At what point do you stop following up altogether?
You don't.
You keep going.
You just keep following up until the house sells or ends up going to auction. You don't, because I mean, look, l- they already have a lot going on, and if they're not responding, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to talk to you. They have something against you. It may just be that they're going through things and they just don't want to talk, or they're still in denial. So keep following up. If you're the last person, standing, you're gonna win. You're gonna end up winning, and like send them a text message every now and then, like, hey, I'm just checking in. Did you need help with anything? You said you applied for a loan modification. Have you reached out to your lender? Was there something that I can help you with that? Or like if they're talking to an attorney, just be like, hey, are you still in touch with your attorney? I just want to let you know, that you just have a few more days now,
Yeah,
you
that's a
know?
good point because I never just text them and say, "Hey, just following up." I never say that. I'm always trying to I'm always trying to bring value to them in every single text message, right? So to keep the conversation going. Because if you're just saying, "Hey, just following up with you," well, guess what? You sound like everybody else. So you want to
Right.
separate yourself, right?
You want to separate yourself. Yeah. Just keep providing value. Just keep asking if there's anything that they need. And then of course, towards the end, you have to start being real, with them. Like, let's
Yeah,
just say if there's like a week left, then you have to be like, hey, look, there's a week left, you know, if you don't do anything, then it's going to end up going to auction. Then
yeah,
you got to start being real.
I agree with you. Is there any stories that you could share with us here today that yeah, where you helped a homeowner and it also turned into a win for your business?
Turned into a win for my business. They're all wins, right? Like it's always, well, I wouldn't say always, but most of the time it's like a win-win situation, right? Like we're helping the family avoid a foreclosure and you get to buy the house, and like the times when it's not a win for us is when, we have spent the money and for whatever reason, they save the house, they want to keep the house, or they ghost you, then you're losing that money, right? And that time and energy that you have spent into this. But it's okay, right? The more
Yeah.
people you help out, the more that, the universe is going to bring back to you.
Absolutely. And I've actually helped a homeowner where I didn't gain anything from it. I stopped the auction for them, and then, they just went on with their business. But then they actually hit me up a couple months later, and they're like, "Hey, look, I have somebody else that went through the same process. Can you help them?" And they ended up turning into a deal. So sometimes, those situations where you don't get nothing from it, they turn around and they turn into referrals, right? So, or you
Right.
can
They
turn them
turn
into
into
like a,
referrals.
a, a video testimonial or some sort.
Right. That, or like, of course, like help them as much as you can. And then not everyone can spend the money. So
Yeah.
spend as much as you can. I wouldn't say like go out there and start, spending, $500, $1,000, or start buying groceries. Like start with maybe $50. Like sometimes we buy groceries for the homeowners, but then I'm not expecting anything back. If you're
Yeah.
helping them, don't expect anything back, because they may not sell to you, or you may not, get to buy the house.
I agree. Now, what's one piece of advice you wish you'd received when you first started working in pre-foreclosures?
To be patient and to be empathetic. No
Mhm.
one, no one obviously, taught me that. It was all about just buying houses with high equity, and making the big bucks. But there's a lot that goes into it. You have to be empathetic.
Yeah, I agree. You got to actually care about their situation, right?
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, you genuinely have to care.
Now, what's the most fulfilling part about of helping homeowners in pre-foreclosures for you?
The most fulfilling is, seeing them, like do something with these houses, when we're able to help them, and like just seeing that they're not going to have a foreclosure, on their record, and they're, going to be able to, purchase again in a few years, like they don't have to wait the 7 8 years. So I think that's the most fulfilling, and a lot of times, like after the closings, we have, families that, come and hug us and be like, thank you so much, you were the one, who stayed consistent, and you showed up at our door when, most of the people just sent us letters and mailers, but you showed up. So a lot of people appreciate that, when you're just showing up.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Now, I know obviously you can only cover so much material in a 1 hour episode on a podcast, right? You can't cover everything, but is there anything that you feel like any, beginners getting started in this space that, we didn't cover here today that should be important to know?
Work on your mindset, when you're starting out, like while you're working on the mindset, also, do the work. Go out there, start talking to the homeowners, whether it's door knocking, cold calling, do both at the same time. Apply, what you're working on, like as far as mindset into the business.
Yeah, that's
you know
great
you're
advice.
you're going to have to work on your mindset. Look, because I didn't work on my mindset for 3 years and I was stuck. But once I started working on my mindset, that's when I started doing more deals. So know that mindset is huge, to your success.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes, you may not even think it's an issue, but it's really you're just being in denial, right? So having a good mindset in this business is very important. So I strongly agree with you right there. So good point on that.
Yeah.
Well, Nita, it's been an absolute honor having you on the podcast. You dropped so many golden nuggets here today. We're lucky to have someone like you in the community that's always helping others and leading with value. I've learned a ton from you over the years, and it's so awesome to see you getting the spotlight and recognition you deserve. I can't wait to watch you crush it on Squad Up. That's amazing this year, and I'm proud to call you a friend. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for giving
Absolutely.
me the opportunity to, talk about pre-foreclosures and share my story. You're also a great friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, Nita, where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram. My Instagram ID is at Nita Patel, or they can find me on Facebook. My name is Nita Patel, and just search for me with that name and you'll find me.
Awesome. Now, if you guys are finding value from this podcast, don't forget to show your boy some love. If you like what we're bringing you, don't forget to subscribe. It helps us continue providing value to others by reaching a broader audience. We're out here to serve, learn together, and help as many people as possible. Make sure to also smash that like button and drop a comment down below letting us know what your biggest takeaway from today's episode. Appreciate all the continued support. And guys, stay tuned because we're pumping these episodes out every 2 weeks. I got some awesome topics and guests coming up next that will change the entire way you do business. You definitely don't want to miss out. Best believe I'm going to keep bringing you that fire. Peace. Thank you, Nita.
Thank you. Bye, Joseph.